So Discord has released their activity SDK into the wild for every developer and their grandma to create their own activity. I've seen a lot of people wanting to know an easy way to make multiplayer activities, so that's what we're going to do using Unity WebGL with Calisius. A quick disclaimer, this isn't by all means the perfect way to make Discord activities, but just a quick way for people to get started creating them. So with that said, let's get on to the video. So let's start by creating a new application for the Discord activity. Then let's go to the new activities tab down at the bottom and click enable. So we want to leave this all on default for now. So now that the Discord application is created, we can start by creating the folders for our projects. So starting in a new folder of your choice, let's right click and open in terminal. Once you're in terminal, we are going to install a few projects. So once in terminal, we can install all of the projects we are going to be using to create our new activity. So you can follow along if you want. I will be leaving the Git project in the description or in the comments down below, but feel free to follow along. Let's create the client. Then let's create the server. So now let's create the Unity project. Click on 2D. So now that all of our projects and folders are set up, let's actually start by getting into some code. So let's open our server folder and then let's open it with any code editor or notepad editor of your choice. So in this part of the tutorial, what we want to do is we want to get our server set up so that it can work with our Unity project. So we just need to do a few tweaks to the code that we have here. So what we want to do is we want to navigate to the myroomstate.ts file. So what we want to do in this folder is that we want to manage our player data. So let's start by getting rid of this over here and then just do the following. So with this, our server will now to manage our play data when connecting from the Unity project. So once you've completed this code, we need to generate the C# models so that we can use it in our Unity project. So do the following. Go into your package.json file. Under scripts, we want to add a new command. Once that is done, we can then go to our terminal and then we can run the new command. So just type in npm run schema. It will then create a new folder called Unity Client with our C# models, which we'll then import into Unity later. So I think that handles the server for now. Let's actually test if the server can actually run. So to run the server, you would then type npm start. If you see this in your terminal, that means that the server has ran successfully and we have now a running server for our game. Let's get back to our Unity project and start adding some code in there so that we can connect to the server. So in the Unity project, let's start by creating the scripts folder and our scripts that we will be needing to connect to our server. Once the two files are created, let's start by opening our network manager script. Before adding any code, let's go to the scripts folder on the left, right click on scripts, add a new directory. Let's name this room state. And then going back to our server, navigate to the Unity client folder where we have our C# generated models. Let's copy those. So copy, and then let's paste this. So before we get into any coding, we want to install the Calisius SDK into our Unity project. So to start, let's go to Window, go to Package Manager, and then let's go to the plus icon and add package from git URL. So we need the Calisius SDK's git URL. So to get that, you would go to the Calisius site. So let's just do that. You type in Calisius, let's go to documentation, and then installation, and then but actually the first option here, so Unity SDK. So then if you look a bit down, you would find the git URL right here. So we would want to copy that, go back to Unity, go back to the little plus icon, go back to URL, and then paste that in here, and then click add. And this will install the Coliseus SDK. So back in Unity, let's click on the network manager script. We will then be back in our IDE. So as you can see, the room state packages, the room state models are still here. And if you click on that, there won't be any more red errors. If you did look at this file before installing the Coliseus SDK, that means everything is working, all good for now, and we can move on to the next step. So now let's set up the game manager. So in the game manager, this is where we'll have all the code to set up all the button interactions for the actual Unity client for our game. This is where we will be creating the code to actually allow the player to join a server or to create a new room, join a room, sorry, or create a new room. So let's get on with that. and that should handle the code for creating and joining a room. So this is a very basic barebone version of the game manager. We will be making it a bit more complex later down the line, but this is just to kind of get the connection between the Unity client and our server as like quick as possible, just to make sure everything is working before we get into like the deep dark scary side of the code anyway. Now that we got most of the basic code out of the way, let's go into our Unity editor and actually add some UI stuff like buttons and inputs. But before we do that, let's do some adjustments to the project settings just to make sure everything is how it should be. So once you're in the Unity editor, go to the project settings, make sure that you're on the player tab, and then also make sure that you are set on the little icon at the back here. This is to enable the WebGL settings, or this is just to check your WebGL settings, and then go to resolution, then just check if this is 960 by 600 and run in background, and that we have this selected as minimal. And then to change your Unity project to a WebGL project, you go to File, go to Build Settings, and then we would want to double click on this WebGL platform selection. Oh, sorry, let's click on the Switch Platform button. I think that would work. Okay, cool. Now that we have all that done and dusted, let's actually just run the application just to see if everything looks okay. Okay, blue screen. Nice. Nothing is broken because we didn't do anything yet. So that's good. Okay, cool. So as at the moment there's nothing in our game scene. So let's start with adding the scripts that we've created to our game scene. So what we want to do is let's get our new scripts into our game scene. Okay, now that we have our main scripts on our game scene, it's time to add the little inputs and buttons that we need to actually create and join lobbies. So let's just get that set up real quick. Okay, cool. We have a really ugly, yet most likely efficient UI. Okay, so we have everything we need, as you can see. We have two text boxes, two input boxes, and we have the two buttons that we need to actually do things on our client. So next, what we want to do is we want to hook up these new inputs with our game manager script. So let's go back to our game manager script and hook up these new inputs and buttons to our script. So just before we go, if you haven't noticed, I have given the inputs all unique names so that we can reference it in our code later. So with the username, we got username input. For room ID, we have room ID input. For the create button, we have button create, and for the join button, we have button join. These are all important for, you know, connecting to our scripts. If you're used to Unity, I'm sure you know that by now, but just in case you don't, yeah, that's very important when referencing it in our scripts. So yeah, let's go to our game manager script and let's do some changes. So I have already kind of added these two beforehand, but we still have to do a little more just to make sure that we can actually get it in our script. So let's just do that. So what we'll be doing now is just making sure that we can actually get the text from the inputs from the front end. So just before we go on, this string that we're placing in here, again, just if you don't know, this should match the name we've given the game object in the front end. This will kind of make sure that it maps from our front end to our actual game manager script. So yeah, just a heads up. Just a correction. Just change these input fields into TMP input fields if you're using text mesh pro input fields. Just copy this over here and replace the input field with TMP input field, and then the red field should go away. The red line, squiggly, squeak squeak. So this takes care of our inputs. Now we just need to make sure that the buttons are all hooked up as well. So back on the Unity engine, to hook up the buttons, all we need to do is click on your create button, and then on the right panel you'll see an on click little box under your button component. Click on add. So what we need to do is we need to drag the game manager script all the way into here, and then this little drop down should enable, and then we go into game manager and select create lobby. And now this create button is now linked to our create lobby function. Now let's do the same for our join button. So on the join button, click on the little plus over here, take game manager, drag it over, boom, game manager, and then game manager over here and join lobby. Nice. So let's save those changes. And from there, I think we should be good to go. So now with all that code out of the way, let's try to create the lobby and join the lobby as well. So what I want you to do is go back to your server, make sure that it is running. So let's actually just stop this. So again, to start the server, we type in npm start. We will then get a 256. We will then get listening to 256. So just to make sure that this is working, you can click on this, and then a little Calicious playground will pop up, where you can actually test your rooms. But this is just to make sure that it is working, so that is confirmed that it is working. So once we know that our server is running, we can go back to our Unity engine and then click play. So what we can try is put in a username. Let's just say user1, and then let's click on create. So as you notice, nothing really happened. But to check if we actually connected to the server, let's go back to our server and check in our terminal, and look at that, we have a new thing that joined. So we can actually check on the server how things are looking. So we can actually click on localhost, click on that link, and then in your little URL thingy-mabob, we can go slash Calicious, and then this will actually show us all the rooms that we create on our server. So as you can see, it created a new room ID. We can go into inspect, and then we have the session ID. So this is the actual client that, you know, connected like to our server. So as you can see, we only have one client right now, but we will have more to come. We can actually test more clients. Let me actually show you how that can be done. So in Unity, stop the project. Let's go to file, and then let's go to build settings again. So in this window, we want to do a build and run. So when you click on build and run, we'll get this window. And now let's create a new folder called builds. So in the builds folder, we can create, I like doing this, create a new folder called web. Just to know that this is your kind of your WebGL build. So double click on that as well. Select the folder, and then it'll start running. So now we just wait for this to finish, and yeah. So once you've waited through that gruelingly long build process, you will have this web page open, which looks very similar to what we see in Unity. So this is just another client that's actually built and running on our web browser. So we can actually open two of these, right? So if you create a new tab, you can open another one over here just by copying this URL and pasting it in a new tab. So what we want to do is, let's create, actually let's go back to our, so just to make sure this is clean, go back to the Calicious URL, and then just dispose this room so that we have no rooms. So what we want to do is go back to the first game tab, type in anything user1, let's create a room, and then if we check back here, we will have a room, which is really nice. We have a room. We should have one person. If we inspect, there's one session in there. That's good. Let's go back. And then what I want you to do is to copy the room ID over here. Go to the second player, and type in user2. And then what I want to do is to paste the room ID. Okay, we can't paste, right? We can't paste. WebGL can't paste. Okay, so what I need you to do is I need you to remember, well, you know what, just do this. So copy the room ID, paste this in here, and then while looking up there, you do p uqwp in v t underscore. So yeah, so Unity has this issue with WebGL not being able to copy paste natively, which is really painful. I'll show you a kind of a workaround later, but for now, let's just do this method. So once we have all of the information we need in, click on the join, and we should have two sessions in our room. So if we go back to the stats, we have two clients in this room. So if we inspect, we have two. We have two. There's two. We two players. Yay! Yeah, two players. Let's go. Let's go. We got two players. So with that, that is the basic setup to get Unity clients connecting to the Calicius server and having creating and joining room functionality for your game. So moving on to making this an actual Discord activity, we will have to do a few more steps on top of what we've just done to get this to all be working in Discord. So to start off, let's go to our project settings in the Unity editor. Go back to the player tab and let's change some things in here. So if we go to the publishing settings and compression format, let's change this from broccoli to gzip, because gzip is better than broccoli. Anything is better than broccoli, am I right? So once that's changed, let's go back to file. Actually, let's just make sure to save. Go back to file, go to build settings, and then let's do a build. And then once we have that, let's click on the web and select folder. Then let's just let that build. So once we have that build, folder will pop up. Let's go into there to check if everything is good. So we will have a build folder and an index.html file. So this will be very important for our next steps. So our next step will be setting up the client for our Discord activity. So going back at least two folders, I think back to the tutorial folder where we created our original folders. Let's click on the client folder. And now let's open this in the IDE we would like to work in. So let's go back to the tutorial folder. Let's go to our Unity WebGL activity. Let's go to builds. Let's go to web. And I want you to copy these two files and folders. Let's go back to our client file and then let's click on client and then paste. So then we'll paste it into our client. It'll ask us to override index.html. Let's overwrite. Once that is done, we'll have a builds folder and we'll have, well, index.html. So in index.html, this is all the Unity generated code that is technically running our Unity game. So what we want to do, let's actually try and get this working in Discord. So before we get out of the IDE, let's just add a few more things to our folder. So first, we'll be creating something called a .env file. So let's just go on and create that. Click on new, click on file, and then let's create .env. And then what we would want in this file will be the following. So this is our Discord client ID. If you remember, we would get this by going to our Discord developer portal, and then on the Auth tool, we copy the client ID from there, and then we go back to our IDE, and we just paste that in there. Also, while you're in the Auth 2 page, make sure to add a redirect to the redirects section. So once we have that, we can now start speaking to the Discord SDK. Speaking about the Discord SDK, we need to add the Discord SDK into our client folder or into our client project. So to install the Discord embedded app SDK, to actually make sure that we can actually run the Unity game on Discord, we need to go to our terminal, make sure that you're in your client folder and do npm install at discord / embedded app SDK. So once we've installed the embedded SDK, we can actually get to changing some of the code in the client folder. So what I want you to do is go into your main.js and then just kind of, I think just clean all of this out. This can be empty right now. And then let's go back to the index.html. And what I want you to do is take out everything between these script tags. So I want you to highlight all of this. Just do a cut. So a Control X on Windows, and whatever you do on Mac. I don't know if whatever you do on Mac. Then go into your main.js and then kind of just like paste all of it in here for now. So once that is in there, we can then go back to the index.html and then kind of get rid of this. And then just sandwich between the canvas and the script. What I want you to do is just create a new script tag with type module and then source main.js. And then let's just close that. So that'll make sure that our main.js is being called inside of our HTML file. Cool. So back into the main.js, let's add our Discord embedded app APK. So what we do is import this Discord SDK. So we'll do all that stuff. And then from here, we would have const Discord SDK equal to Discord SDK. And then in here, you would have to get your client ID. So what we can do is import dot meta dot env dot discord. What was it? It was Discord client ID. So that will make sure to import our client ID into the Discord SDK so we can actually work with the Discord SDK with the application that we created in Discord. Once we have that done, let's just make something over here. Let Auth, this will be used later. And then let's start by going to this create Unity instance. So let's just adjust this a bit. Let's comment out this. And then at the end of this over here, we would then want to say .then, open brackets, sync Unity instance. Open that. And then what you want to do is await setup Discord SDK. So let's just have that over there. So now we have to create a new function called setup Discord SDK. So if we go below this and we say async function setup Discord SDK. All right. And then what we're going to do is await Discord SDK dot ready. Oh my goodness. And then from here, we would then set up the authorization to Discord. So I have the code somewhere else. So I'm really not going to, I'm not going to type everything, guys. I'm just going to copy from one of my older projects. So we have it over there. So I will leave this open so that you can do all your writing along if you are following along. This code over here, let's go back to the index.html and let's just make some adjustments on this canvas over here. I'm making adjustments so that when you don't change this, the window in Discord will actually have scroll bars. Actually, you know what? Let me actually show you what this looks like before we actually change things. So once we have this code in, let's try to get this working on Discord. So let's try to run the client. So if we do npm run dev. So once we have our client project running, we need to tunnel our IP so that Discord can actually recognize that it is running. So to start tunneling, we need to get something called Cloudflare. So you can go to the Cloudflare site, go to the download section, and then go to the Windows side of things and then download the executable. So once you click download, it will start downloading the Cloudflare software, and then you can get it installed. Once you've installed Cloudflare, you'll be able to go into your command terminal or your terminal and type in Cloudflare V, and you should get a Cloudflare version. Once you have Cloudflare on your PC, let's open a new terminal. Okay, you know what? Let's open it on the right side. Let's open it over here. So once we have Cloudflare enabled, so what I like to do is go into your package.json and let's add a new script over here. So let's add a tunnel script, and then in here we can have a Cloudflare tunnel URL http localhost, and this is just the URL that we see at the bottom over there, 5173. So once we have that there, we can go into our new terminal and say npm run tunnel, and this should run the Cloudflare tunnel. So it'll spit out a few things. We are just interested in the little boxed URL over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this URL, and then we're going to go back to our Discord activity on the Discord developer portal. So if we go back to Discord developer portal, back into our application, we need to go to the URL mapping section. So once you're in the activity URL mapping section, we want to take the link that we copied and then just paste it in over here. Once that's done, you can save changes, and we are all done here. So after setting the URL mapping, we want to jump into a voice chat. And then once we're in the voice chat, go to the start activity. And then what you should see in the activity little window here, you should see my new activity. This is just the new one that we've created in our application. So if we click this, they'll ask you new activity, blah, blah, blah. And once you're in, you should see the window. Wait, oh, it's asked me to authorize, okay. And then we'll have our activity in Discord. So at the moment, this is not actually speaking to our server. There's still quite a few of other things we have to set up to get this working with our server in Discord. So let's move on to that. Before I move on, I actually wanted to show you how to keep your activity kind of sized to the window. As you can see, it adds a scroll bar like on the side. So what we need to do is go back into your client folder, go to index, and then let's just make some changes to the canvas. So what we would need to do is just get rid of the style section over here. Get rid of the style section. And then we're going to add a few things. So let's just add a new style section over here. And this is technically what we're going to need to keep it framed to size. So if we go back to our activity, we would have it filled and its sizes to how far your window is. Okay, so now we are on to the final steps of the tutorial, and that is setting up Discord authentication properly between your clients and the server, as well as getting information from Discord, like your Discord username and your Discord avatar. To start off this section, let's get back to the server folder and let's go to the app.config.ts file. In here, we want to set up a new endpoint so that we can authenticate through the server and let the server connect to Discord's API to get our access token so that we can actually authorize our user on Discord. So to get this done, in the app.config.ts file, under the initialize express function, let's create a new endpoint. So we can start by saying app.host, and then let's add a token over here. What we'll use is sync request response. And then here we just need to add the link. We just have to add the endpoint to call Discord's API. So I actually have this code as well somewhere. Let me just copy that, paste it over here. So this will be the code to contact the Discord API to get our token and send it back to the client. So as you can see, we are going to need a client ID and a client secret from the application. So what we're going to need to do is go to the environment, the .env.development file, and let's add two new things over here. So node Discord client ID and node Discord client secrets. So I'm sure you know the deal by now. We go back to the Discord activity. We go to Auth 2. Let's copy the client ID. Let's go back. Paste it over there. And then for the client secret, we need to go to the portal. This is let me just reset this token. And then copy this client secret over here. And then go back to the project or server and then paste it over here. Nice. So once we have that set up, we have our new endpoint that our clients will use to get our tokens from Discord, which will allow us to get lots of information, lots of really juicy information from Discord. So once this is done, we need to do the same thing we did to the client and actually tunnel our server so that Discord can actually communicate with the server as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this to the right again. And what we're going to do, we're going to do something very similar. So if we go back to our client folder, we go back to the package.json. Let's just copy this over here and go back to the server and then go to the server's package.json. And then let's add a new command. We can paste the tunnel over there. And then let's just change this to what the server has over here. So this is localhost 2567. So once that's done, we can do npm run tunnel. And then once this is tunneled, we can then go and take the URL in this block. So once you've copied the URL in this block, let's head back to the Discord application. Let's go back to URL mappings. And then what we want to do here, we want to add our server URL that we just copied into this URL mapping. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another. Let's just do /server. and then just paste our URL in the target over here and then click save. So once we've created the new URL mapping for our server, we need to do a slight change on the Unity side of things. So if we go back to our Unity project and we click on the network manager, and then in the initialize function, we need to change this so that it doesn't point to localhost anymore, but instead we're going to point it to the Discord URL that Discord has created for our server. So let's change this. So let's just get rid of all of this. Let's type in WSS. And then what we need to do is go back to your Discord application. And let's go get your client ID. Then what we're going to do is go back to the Unity, the network manager, and then paste your ID in there, your client ID. And then what we need to add over here is .discord says.com/server. So moving back to the client project, now that we made sure that we can connect to Discord's API and get the information we need, we can now try to get our username from Discord and our avatar from Discord. So let's try and do that. So under the await setup Discord SDK, we want to be able to get our username from the server and our icon or avatar from the server. So let's just do a const. Let's make it let username is equal to empty, and let icon URL equal empty. So what we first need to do is we need to call a specific Discord API endpoint to get the guild information for our user. So let's just paste it over here. So with this URL, we can get the member information for the access token that we authenticated with. So the user that you entered the activity with. So this will get all of our member information, which is our name, our nickname, our icon, and whatever kind of member information we need. So once that's done, we can go down and we can actually get we can do some checks to either get our member information or our actual Discord user information, just in case we don't have one or the other. So let's just write some code for if member dot avatar is not equal to null. So let's make icon URL equals, let's do the backtick because we can have some special string stuff in here. So https cdn.discordapp.com/guilds, and then have $. Let's open this. So Discord SDK.guild ID. And then outside of that, we do users $auth auth.user.id avatars, and then we just do members.avatar, and the AI is keeping up with, sorry, not members, member, and then .png, and then let's just make the size equal to, I don't know, 256. Okay, cool. So this will be for if we do have a member avatar. If not, we will then default it to icon URL backtick https cdn.discordapp.com. avatars. Let's go stk dot. Oh, sorry. Auth dot user dot id, and then auth dot user dot avatar dot png, size equals 256 as well. So that will then just take the user avatar instead of your guild avatar or your server avatar. And then for username, let's go back to this line. Actually, I just realized that we can just do it over here. So for username, actually no, we can't. Let's just move this. Let's just move this below over here because we actually want it on after the members call. So then we just do member question mark nick. So that's if you have like a member, like if you have a server nickname. If not, if there is no server nickname, just get your global name. So we now have our username and the icon URL that we can use in our Unity project. So how do we get it to our Unity project? So we have this Unity instance over here that we will use to actually send this information down to Unity. So to do that, we can do if Unity instance, just to check if there is one. If there is a Unity instance, we say Unity instance dot send message. And then let's just name this bridge over here. And we can name this set user data. And then let's make this json.stringify. Let's make a new object over here. And then let's just do this as username. And this can be username. And then we can have this as icon URL. And this can be icon URL. Okay. So just to explain this is a special way to send data from a WebGL Unity project to any Unity script. So we will have to do some work on the Unity side to get this to communicate with our scripts. So let's actually go set all of that up. So back in Unity, let's create a new script. We will go to create C# script and let's call this bridge. So what the bridge script is going to be used for is going to be any data that we need from Discord. We will be communicating it through the bridge into our Unity project. So let's get started on that. So this is going to be quite the complicated. So this is a bit of a complex. So the bridge. So the bridge class is going to be a bit more complicated than other classes that we've done prior to this. This is going to work with a lot of things like delegates, events, just to kind of keep the data from just to keep the Discord data all up to date. So the bridge class is going to get a bit more complex than the other classes. I'll try to run through what the basic functionality is after I get everything written in. But yeah, let's get started. So the bridge class is a bit complicated compared to the other. So the bridge class is a bit more complicated than the previous classes that we set up. So I'm just going to copy what I have from one of my other projects, and then I'll try to explain after I've gotten all that in. This will be the class that handles all the information we get from Discord, and then kind of pushing it into our Unity application. So at the top we have a user data class. So this class is, its main function is to map the data we push through from our client project. So if we just go back to the client project over here, and we go back to the Unity instance send message function. So as you can see, we have some strings over here, right? These are actually the most important part of the send message function. So the reason why we went with specific naming like bridge, because this function actually needs to map to a class with the exact same name. So going back to our Unity class, this bridge class will match up to our client's first send message parameter. And then the set user data, if we go back to our bridge class, we have another function over here called set user data. So this is the exact same thing where you have to keep it the exact same name, or else it just won't work. So this function is then used as a name in the client, so that the client knows what function to use. And then this over here is just the data we're going to send into that function. So as you can see, username and icon URL, these two properties are also mapped and matching this properties over here. So you can kind of seeing a pattern. So the bridge is responsible for mapping the Discord data from our client to our Unity application, and we have to make sure that like these things are exactly the same in our client and this bridge class, or else you'll end up with lots of problems while running your application. You won't see username being populated or icon URL, because say for instance if we had set users data, our client won't know to call that because it's trying to call set user data. So we would either need to say set users data over here, or we would need to change the function over here to say go back to set user data, so that it all matches up and aligns. So say for instance you would want to send like an extra piece of data down to your application. So we can add a new property called channel ID over here. And then let's just make it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if we go back to our bridge class, in the user data class over here, we would just say another public string channel ID. And again, it's very important that this name that you give it here matches with the name that you give it over here. This is all about matching. If nothing is matching, nothing is working. That's all I'm saying. So just be very aware. Just be very aware of that. So let's just take this out. So I'll give you some time to copy this, to write this through if you're following along. Again, I'm going to be leaving a Git repository to all of this code, so that if you aren't following along, you can just download the code and the source, and then you can kind of just introspect and run through that yourself. Okay, so with the bridge script created, let's go back to our Unity editor and then let's create a new game object for that bridge script. So let's create bridge over here, bridge, and then click on bridge inspector, and then let's just drag this into here. And then what we would need to do is we would need to make sure to call the bridge when the activity starts or the game starts. So let's go into game manager. And then once you're in the game manager, go into your start function, and then just at the end of the start function, actually before we go to the start function, let's just go on top of here. Let's just say public bridge, bridge, because why not? And then let's go back to the editor. Let's go back to the editor. And then on your game manager game object, we will have a new little thingamabob ready to be assigned in the game manager scripts. So when you have this over here, you would want to just drag the bridge game component, game object, into the bridge section, and then we will be able to use the bridge in our game manager. So now let's go back to game manager, and then let's go to the bottom of the start function, and then let's add bridge dot user data changed, and then let's say user data. All right, at this stage, let's try to get our username or our Discord name printed on the Discord activity. So let's just do this for player is equal to JSON utility dot from JSON. And then what we need to do is do the square user data. I think it's this one. Yeah. And then user data goes in there. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, once we have that, we can then do, let's set this to the user input. So what we can do is you can say username input dot text is equal to player dot. So once we have that in place, let's try to rerun this all in Discord. So back in the editor, to make sure that the new updated code all runs in Discord, we need to do a rebuild of the project. So if you remember, we go to file, we go to build settings, and then in this window, let's click on build, and then let's just reselect the web, and then let's just rebuild all of that. So once the project has built, let's go into the web folder, and then just copy only the build folder. We don't need the HTML folder anymore. Let's just copy the build folder, then go back to our client project, and then click on the client folder, and then just paste from the client folder. It will then ask you to overwrite existing web data.js and JZ, GZ, and then just overwrite for all. So now it will just overwrite our build, and it won't affect all the changes we've done in index HTML. So once that's done, we can then go back to Discord. We can then go into the voice chat, then go into start activity, new activity, and then, oh, it's asking us to authorize. Ah, okay. So it's not working. So I did miss a few things in the server project. So in the server project, go to your terminal and npm install.env. Once you got that installed, go into your app input.config.ts file. And then you'll need to add this line, import express from express, import .env from .env, and then .env config. Make sure to add those so that the config will actually work for your process.env node Discord client and client secret. And then as well add this app.use express JSON so that you can work with JSON objects. So once that's all done, go back to your voice chat or your voice channel, go to your activity, click on your activity, and it should ask you to authorize. Once that's done, you will then be able to get information from Discord. As you can see, it's my name in the server. And then we actually filled it in the input as well. So while we're at it, let's try to get the user icon into our activity as well. So back in the game manager class, let's add a new function called iEnumerator. Or let's add a new iEnumerator function called load image. And then let's just pass in a URL. And then let's just do Unity web request equals to Unity web request dot get texture. Just yield return request dot send web request. Ah, sorry, this is actually unit. Sorry, let's just correct this. Is actually wrong. So let's just make it Unity web request web request texture. And then let's go lower than this. If request dot result is equal to Unity web request dot result dot connection error. Let's just handle this as a debug.log for now. Request dot error. And then else. Let's just do texture texture 2D dot texture 2D my texture equal to download handler texture as request dot download handler and then dot texture. We'll have like a sprite over here. New sprite equals to sprite create my texture new rect. Let's make the 0 and then my texture dot width and my texture dot height. And then new vector 2 make the 05 float and 05 float. Something is still wrong. Oh, just close off the rect over there. Get rid of one of those there. And then let's get an image onto a Unity editor. So on the Unity editor, let's add a new UI. Let's add an image. Let's add it over here. And then user image, right? And then let's get that into our script. So if we go back into game manager, let's go up here. So private image. Let's just say user image, right? And then down here we say user image is equal to game object dot find user image dot get component image. So now we have this over here, and then we can go all the way down here and say user image dot sprite is equal to new sprite. So now we have our load image function ready to load our image. So with this, we want to go to our bridging function over here where we get our Discord information. And then right under the username input text, we want to do a start coroutine. And then we just do load image. And then we just say player.icon URL. And then from there, we have to do another build. So let's just, because since we want to demo all of this, so let's go back to WebGL, Unity editor. Is everything been saved? Everything is saved. Let's go to build settings, build, WebGL, select folder. Once it's done, let's go through the same process of taking the build folder, going to your client project, pasting the build folder in your client, or overwrite all. And then let's go back to Discord. So let's leave the activity and then reopen the activity. And there you have it. We have a username and we have the Discord icon. So that is pretty much it for getting a Unity WebGL project connected to Calicia's backend server, as well as integrating it with the new Discord embedded SDK and making sure we can get data from Discord into our activity. In the next video, we will be learning how to create lobbies within the Unity client, as well as managing other player data. And hey, if you made it this far, give the video a like and click that subscribe button if this was helpful in any way, or maybe even share it with one of those developer friends of yours. I don't usually make these types of videos, but I really wanted to help out people who are struggling making Discord activities with Unity. For now, that's all from me. Until next time, see ya!